So for me, creativity really is just as simple as taking two things that already exist and just slapping them together. Cool. And that's why I would argue very sternly that everyone is creative and everyone has potential to be creative, but it's just like going to the gym and getting jacked. If you go to the gym a lot, you're going to notice you can pick up heavier weights. If you start thinking creatively more, your creative muscles grow.
What's happening, guys? On today's episode of Tattoo Table Talk, we're gonna be talking everything film with my guest, Jacob Ames, who is a filmmaker, an aspiring director, an actor, and a content creator. He's even a Guinness Book of World Records holder. The man does it all, right? So we're gonna be doing a cool tattoo today, something simple but clean. And I'm gonna hear about his story and we're gonna have a good conversation, so tune in. Welcome to Tattoo Table Talk, episode 7. I'm here with Jacob Ames, and I would say in our conversation so far, he is really a Renaissance man. And we've had some really good conversation already here today, and I'm excited to hear a little bit more about his story. So we're gonna do this cool tattoo and have a good conversation. So let's get into it, dude.
Let's do it.
Cool? All right, man, so I usually do a little bit of an icebreaker. I ask people, like, tell me about your first tattoo experience. Cool?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So this is my first tattoo here.
Okay.
So I got it because my mind's kind of like a butterfly. I'm always hopping around to the next flower and trying to explore new ideas. And so I got the net to remind me to take my thoughts captive. There's a verse in the Bible that says, take your thoughts captive and make them obedient to God. And so I got that as a reminder. And the tattoo's amazing. Like, it served me exactly how it was supposed to. Like, I get to tell people that all the time, so it reminds me of the philosophy behind it.
Sure.
But the experience was a little rough.
A little strange?
Yeah.
Was it like you didn't know what to expect and there was anxiety around it, or?
Yeah, there was anxiety, and then on top of it, the guy was kind of one of those, like, I'm too cool to like be doing this type of tattoo.
Tattoo's so lame. Yeah.
So he actually recreated the reference, like didn't change anything, just put a butterfly on top of the picture I sent him and stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of got the idea the whole time that he was like...
He just didn't care.
Yeah. Said, oh, I'd love a swarm of butterflies. And he was like, that's just not going to happen. And now looking back, I'm like, you just couldn't do it. And I'm like, that's okay.
Or he was just like, I don't have the patience to figure out what it would take to do this.
For sure.
Which sucks, yeah.
But also at the same time, it taught me an important lesson. Like, speak up if you don't like the way something looks. If it's going to be on your body forever, like, you shouldn't have a problem saying, I don't want this.
Dude, absolutely. And that's a tough thing for me because I was never that type of, like, artist, but I've had people tell me, like, oh man, like, I'm just really, in the past, I've had stuff that I've gotten that I really regret because I was just too afraid to say anything. They were so cool. And I was like, dude, no, like, fucking tell me. Like, I can't read your mind. You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's like today, I was like, all right, you want to move this? Let's move it. You want me to shrink it? Let's shrink it. It's like literally a 5-minute solution to a lifelong thing that's going to be on you. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So, all right. So you had a first tattoo experience was generally sounds like pretty, you're happy with the piece, relatively neutral experience, nothing too crazy, which I think is good.
Yeah.
So let's go to like where you're from, man. Tell me about like where you grew up, and what that was like.
Yeah, so I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
10 maybe minutes from the lake.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm the youngest of 5.
No
kids.
way,
yeah.
bro. I'm the youngest of 6. We didn't even talk about that, dog. That's actually wild, because that's like, yo, all right, we're going to talk about this.
We do both have like youngest child energy.
Yeah, dude, let's go.
So yeah, I grew up in Erie. I actually currently live in Erie.
Growing up in Erie, were you like near like Presque Isle? Mm-hmm. So anybody listening, like Erie's actually mad pretty. Like Presque Isle's like, Lake Erie's so big, it kind of seems like it's an ocean, right? And so we used to go up there, and actually, very random aside, but I had an aunt. I'm the youngest of 6. My mom is also the youngest of 5 by like a ton. Like my mom's oldest sibling is like 90, and my mom's 70.
Wow.
So my oldest sibling is 45, and I'm 29. But I had an aunt, my mom's sister, who was like a cloistered nun at a thing up in Erie. So we would go up to Lake Erie, and I had these really early memories. I'd be like 7 or 8 years old, and I'd be like, oh, it's so pretty. And then like next flash of memory would be like me like visiting my aunt behind bars because she like couldn't. I was like, this is very strange. But anyway, so all right. So growing up, big family. What was that like? Like, were your siblings, are they all very different, or are they all very academic? Are they all very creative? Like, how was that dynamic, being the youngest child?
Yeah, my siblings are definitely creative in their own ways. And like, I think maybe I was the one that was like most inclined to doing creative things, especially as like a business.
Yeah.
But yeah, my oldest sister likes, are you familiar with like the Cricut, like doing vinyl cutting
Yes,
stuff?
yeah, dude.
She likes that. My one brother's wife likes that, and like my other sister's, she loves making sourdough, and
Let's go.
my oldest brother is like he's really good at drawing. He never like wanted to do it as
Never pursued it as a career.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I definitely grew up in an environment where I was like free to try stuff. Like when I honestly don't remember the age exactly, but when I was young, I took apart a DVD player, like a VCR, and used the servo motor inside to like make a little car. And I took these like underwater robotics classes, and so I got to like put little DC motors inside of film canisters and fill them with wax so they don't get wet. And I did Lego robotics in middle school, and then I did what's called FTC in like before high school, which is like metal robots.
Oh, no way.
That you program, and there's like a task that they have to complete.
Yeah.
With FLL, with the Legos, it was like autonomous tasks.
Okay.
So you like program the robot to go out and do this thing, and then it comes back to you and you click a button and start another program. And then in high school I did FRC, which is First Robotics Challenge. Okay. And we went to the national championship for that, so that was cool.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I think that, to me, what's kind of surprising about that is because like, it sounds like you were more like mechanically inclined growing up, or at least just like curious, right? I think like I have a brother that was, out of all my siblings, like some of them were, I think we discussed this before, like filming, like there's a lot of nuance to the word like creative, right? Because like I think creativity can be just expressed in so many different ways, but my one brother was like the exact same way. He would always tear things apart, you know, rebuild them, figure out how to do it. He ended up like going on to become an engineer. Yeah. So it's interesting because you guys have like a very similar sort of like path, right? Sure. But then you've like really gone into like this full-blown film, you know, acting, videography, which is like in my head like very visually, you know. But I guess there is like kind of like a formula to it, right?
Yeah, there's something special about, this will be like a roundabout answer, but like there's something really special about film in the sense that like you can film anything. So like it's really a catch-all creative choice for me, because I'm like, I can still be creative in any format that I want to. And I wrote my philosophy of art when I was a sophomore in high school, and it really, the essence of it is like, you know, you can't always translate every idea into the same medium. Or me personally, I don't feel like I can. So I try to explore a lot of things, and you said a word that I'm like really familiar with, like curiosity. I think that's what happens where a lot of people think they're not creative, is they've lost their curiosity that they had as a child. And really, if you think about it, like we're all creative. Like you're creating CO2 right now, you're creating blood. from your bones. And I think it really opens up a whole separate part of you to say, like, I have just as much agency to be creative as anyone else. And there's this narrative in the creative or art industry that's like, people are really talented, and that's great. And I think some people are gifted with more talent than others. But skill is really what sets you apart, because if you're willing to work hard and try new things and be embarrassed, and you know that firsthand with tattooing, you know, like, it's not always the best tattoo when you first start.
No, absolutely. And well, it's really interesting. Like I knew we were gonna think really like aligned in this way when we started talking, because like I've always been someone that says like hard work beats talent. And there are some times that like I'll meet people and I'm just like, dude, they're just like dripping with creativity. That's like a God-given gift or something like that, you know? But if you have that and you don't work to materialize it into anything, like it's not, or to work to push that forward, it's not going to materialize in anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, so you were always kind of like tinkering with stuff growing up. At what point did you develop like an interest in film or like visual art?
Yeah. And that's like when you're asking about the mechanical side of things, I think that's where the fork in the road comes for a lot of mechanically inclined people. They're like, am I good at math? Or do I like math enough to be a mechanical engineer?
Yeah.
Because I thought that at first, and I still think I could be a mechanical engineer, but I'm like, does it make me happy to do this much math all the time? Like, not necessarily.
Probably not.
So for me, I started acting when I was in middle school, or before that I would do like church plays and stuff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So that was like I'm not a huge fan right now in my life of theater acting. Like, I respect it, and I think it takes a lot of hard work to do, especially like you're putting on a whole show in one take. Like, that's insane.
It is crazy.
But I think I was a YouTube kid, and I'm a YouTube adult. Like, I could name for you like tons of the first viral videos on YouTube. Like,
so like you watched a lot of YouTube, like the early YouTube influencers.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay.
So like, do you know who Casey Neistat is?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I was obsessed with Casey Neistat. I saw like every one of his vlogs. All the time, and he just intrigued me because he can make the most boring thing interesting.
Okay.
Like, he's just going to get dollar pizza, and like, it's a whole story. And
yeah, I'm not really familiar like with most of his videos. Like, what is that? Is it just kind of like a day in the life situation, or?
Yeah. So like, his thing is you got to find something that's a problem and like give a solution to it. Like, tell a story. It's in overarching, like, storytelling is pretty simple. You know, I think a lot of things in life are simple, and we just overcomplicate them by like paralysis by overanalysis. So for me, it was refreshing to see someone, and he like doesn't give a crap about his camera gear. Like, he'll like, there's videos of him like crushing his cameras with axes and like sacrificing the camera for the shot.
Ooh, that's cool though.
And
it's genuine.
Exactly.
Genuine, yeah.
And there's a creator I really like right now. His name is Evan Monsama, I think is how you pronounce it. But he mods cameras with like wood and stuff. So he'll like take apart lenses and replace parts of them with wood, and like he uses 12-volt drill batteries to charge his camera. Like, it's so crazy. He just thinks in a way that like there aren't limits. And we've discussed this, like, when you put too many limits on like what's possible, you kind of close the door to what is possible. So for me, video tied that all together. So I was like, let me just tell stories.
And so you were like, when you said you were acting growing up, was that like, did you ever do like musical and stuff like that? Is that kind of like, because for example, I don't know, I was definitely way more judgmental when I was a kid. And like, I used to be like, oh, the kid's in like musical, like whatever. But then like, I also really liked that because it was a way, I'm an expressive person. And so I remember doing like a play in like 8th grade. It was like a Shakespeare play or something. And I was like, dude, no, I'm definitely not like interviewing for like, I'm gonna be like stage crew. And then I was watching them on stage and I was like, damn, man, like I should have tried. Like, I think I would have liked this.
Yeah.
And so later in high school, I ended up like doing the musical. And any of my friends that like played sports with me that were like, dude, that's so whatever, I would be like, shut up, man. Like, I'll beat you up and I'm gonna do a split on stage.
Yeah.
So like, what about it, you know? And I had a great time with it. So was that kind of like, was that your first introduction to like, like how that world works, like film, acting, like that was sort of what inspired you to sort of pursue that?
Yeah. And I've like spent a lot of time sitting and tracking my interest back for film and acting. And like that's where that started. Obviously as a kid, like I loved making my siblings laugh. Like there are home videos of me being like 5 or younger. Like actually a funny story, my dad would put his hand on top of, we had a wood stove growing up, that's how we heated our house. And before he lit the fire, he would put his hand on top to like look inside and reach in. And so I was like making fun of him. I had his big shoes on, I'm clomping around, and I put my hand on top of the lit wood stove and like give myself like 2nd-degree burns.
No way.
Because like I've always been the jester, you know?
Yeah, dude. Well, I think that's youngest child syndrome.
Yeah.
Because to me, I was like, man, something's weird here. Like ever since I was really young, I was like, I feel like I don't quite belong. You know what I mean? And my parents will say that I wasn't the accident of the family, but I probably am. I mean, I'm like 6 years younger than all of the rest, so.
I just say they stopped after they found perfection.
There we go. Yeah, they stopped. They were like, you know what? But
you
for
can't
me,
do better.
I remember doing shit like that all the time where I was like, these like people, these beings are like bigger and know more. And it was just this young, this kind of conscious thought of like, but if I'm real goofy and fart a lot, they're going to give me attention. And I was like,
sure.
So yeah, I totally relate to that. What about like high school, like those years going into like, did you go to college? Like how did you arrive from adolescence to Jacob now?
So kind of the pipeline of my creativity was being around, like I'll say like the origin of video, looking back, was my dad taking like mini VHS videos
Home
of
videos.
us. Yeah, on a old camera, and me being able to watch that kind of like did something to my mind that I didn't understand until I was older, and I was like, there's something really special about like capturing moments of light in time. And like, so for me, I was making a lot of physical things in my early like creative life. Like I did a lot of string art. I did freelance art for a long time, like nail and string art, because that was easy to keep doing. Yeah. I've done glass etching, carpentry, metalwork, like fine metalwork, like jewelry.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like very drawn to Da Vinci.
Do you think that was some of like, was that like just again like just general curiosity, or like you were just like interested in physically doing stuff with your hands, or like a combination, or what?
I think a lot of it came down to like my curiosity to like try everything, because I'm like, you know, sometimes I think of an idea and I'm like, you know, that would be super cool as a song, or like this would be super cool as like a drawing, or this would be super cool as stained glass. And I'm like, it just wouldn't be as cool in one scenario as it would in another. So I'm like, I would just want to do this other thing. And because I felt like I could, which like I'm very thankful to my parents for, you know, like giving me a space where I felt comfortable. Like my parents used to say all the time, Legos are meant to be put together and taken apart. Yeah. So like if you made something and your brother took it apart, like don't get upset. Right. Like that's what Legos are for. And so like to learn that at such a young age, I think was really important, because I was like, you know, I can't put too much energy into thinking about the end product. Right. Like it's really about the process of creating. And so then like, for me, like I kind of mentioned, like, you know, film pulls it all together, and like acting has always been interested me, because I'm like, I can do accents, I can do faces. Like when I watch movies, I think I could do that. Like that's fun. And like, it's cool to feel that way. Like you walk out of a movie theater when you're younger, you just watch Spider-Man, you're like, I'm literally Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like,
dude, right?
I could do a backflip. And then you're like, I'm going to do a backflip. Like, I'm going to figure out how to do a backflip.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, like, I'm such a, I told Jacob earlier, like, I would consider myself like a cinephile, which sounds like a really terrifying word, but it just means that, like, you're obsessed with movies. And I love film and movies and shows, but particularly movies, because it's like an hour to 3 hours of like peak escapism.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like, because I'm very visually, like, I'm a visually expressive person, like, I can think, people will be like, man, I don't even know how you visualize something. And I'm like, I can kind of visualize you with like a pirate hat. Like,
yeah.
Like, it's just something that my brain works that way. So it's really fun when I'm watching a movie because I can like kind of immerse myself in it.
Yeah.
So is that like something you kind of felt at a younger age, like the escapism element of it?
For sure. And I would definitely say I couldn't identify it as that when I was that age. I was just like,
this is cool.
This makes me feel insane.
Sick. Yeah.
Like you watch two guys fight in a movie and you're like,
no way.
That's what I'm supposed to do as a man.
Yeah, right.
Like, which is like a little misplaced, but at the same time, it's like, that's a good feeling because you're like, I feel connected to like masculinity. I feel connected to this thing that like makes me feel more like what I was intended to do.
Yeah.
But it's not always good. That's the thing about film. I'm always like you may have seen some interviews like Tarantino where the lady's like, you know, it's bad that you're having people get shot in these films and all this murder. And he's like, but it's fun. It's film. It's a movie.
It's a movie.
And she's like, I hope someone comes up behind you and points a gun at your head and shoots it. And he's like, you're insane.
Yeah,
like,
right. It's not supposed to be real life.
You know, there's a difference.
Yes, absolutely. So, at what point did you, in your life, like, did you go from having this kind of a budding affinity for film and being very creative with all these different, you know, platforms, to then like, hey, I'm gonna start like making videos. I'm gonna start like posting stuff. You know, like how did that evolve?
So it started with modeling.
Okay.
So I had some photographers reach out to me and ask me to model for them, and then thought popped into my head like, oh, why don't I just take these pictures of myself? So I bought a camera and talked to a bunch of friends. I had actually asked probably like 10, 15 photographers to come shadow them. Nice. And they would all say yes and then like not follow through. And finally I got a friend to let me come, and I took some pictures that I was like, I cannot believe I just took that. Like, I guess I'm a photographer, like in a sense, like.
Wow, yeah.
But then my conviction has always been like, you should understand the history of something or you become arrogant. It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Like, we exchange a piece of paper for a second brain that we know nothing about, and we think that we deserve it. It's like we had nothing to do with the invention of phones. Like, and most people couldn't tell you how a phone works, you know? Like, I couldn't even tell you how most of the parts of a phone work, or like software, hardware. So for me, I was drawn to the history, which is interesting because in high school, I recall being bored by history because of my teachers. And now as an adult, I think I'm drawn to period pieces because I'm like, history is cool. Like,
dude,
you know?
Thank you. Say that again.
Yeah.
You know, my thing is, my wife and some people like, which is funny because like he knows my wife Bianca, she's very into doing period piece art and stuff, but like, and she's kind of into it now, like she's getting more into it, but I'm like, I don't know, this is the funny thing with me is I'm so interested in history and always have been. It's really been my favorite subject throughout my whole life. Yeah. Because I think it's like, man, predicting the future and all these other things is really weird and strange, but like if we look back at the past, it can give us some insight into like, you know, how like human thought and consciousness evolves, and it's probably pattern recognition, and then it might happen again. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, that's why I've always been interested in it, and I've also just been interested in it through all of its different iterations. But I guess I always had that, so it's encouraging though to hear somebody who was like, dude, I don't remember being into it, but now I am.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, maybe that just like came with time or something, you know, or maturity or something. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, I think that's really the key to living the life you want is to change your perspective.
Yeah.
Like, it's really just about looking at things differently. And I think when I think about history, I think of like, I was raised in the church. And so, like, my dad's a pastor and he's very interested in apologetics. So, like, I could defend the Christian faith, like, very strongly.
Yeah, nice.
And when you look at the Bible, it's a history book, you know, it's a philosophy book, it's a religious book. And King Solomon in Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. And he says, like, meaningless, everything's utterly meaningless. And there's two ways you can look at that. You can look at that and say, I'm a nihilist and nothing matters, so I'm just gonna, like, one, maybe like kill myself, or two, like, just not give a crap about anything. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you can be like, that's awesome. Nothing matters. So I can, like, freely explore life and, like, not put too much weight into everything, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna die. So
yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is a lot of people, even like what we're doing today, we're tattooing a skull, and like there's so many little nuances in religion and stuff and religious imagery or whatever, but like from my own faith background, like I think a lot of people will be like, oh, he has a skull tattooed on him, and I'm like, don't you know that like memento mori is like one of the most Christian things, that, like that concept of like, hey, remember death, like remember that we are dust and to dust we shall return, right? Like that's like something that I remember hearing in church growing up, and that's like, yeah, like it is kind of a freeing way in a sense for me at least to think that like, you know, if I just like try to pursue doing the right things in life, like anything can happen, and at any moment like we could get nuked or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not really stressing out about it, because like at least I'm trying to do the right thing, right? I mean, I think that's like, it's my concept of spirituality or whatever, but yeah.
You mentioned Bianca, and I recently, like actually today I ordered it, but a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And in the book he talks about how, like, when the telegram was invented, people started caring about things that like they couldn't even control. And I think there's upsides to social media, of course. Like, I wouldn't have had the experience I had in life without social media. But there's obviously, of course, negatives that are like, people think that they need to get involved in stuff they can't change. And it's good to be an advocate for things, but at a certain point you gotta ask yourself, like, where is my impact?
Yeah.
Like, if I care so much about this thing, shouldn't I do something about it? You know, every approach can look different. But I do think there's a book called Atomic Habits. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't heard of that one.
It's by a guy named James Clear. And one of my favorite quotes from the book is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Ooh.
And so I think I was fortunate to have experienced a lot of like philosophy at a young age, and like reading about the Stoics and the Big Three all the way back to like Athens.
Yeah.
And they say stuff that you're just like, wow, that's so like disgustingly simple. Like, it almost hurts because you want to argue, but you're like, I can't, because it's just true. Like, life is simple, and we're the ones that make it complicated.
Dude, isn't that true? I mean, yeah, and I think that's, as I'm kind of like getting older, I don't know what it is, but like I'm 29, and one of the craziest things, maybe it has to do with sobriety, and maybe it has to do with having a spiritual connection to a higher power, or maybe it's just part of aging, but I feel like all of a sudden I turned like 27 or something, and there was like, boom, someone cracked me in the head, and I had this new sense of consciousness. I was like, damn, like my prefrontal cortex is fully developed now, you know what I mean? I was like, this is wild. Like, I have the ability to like feel empathy and like kind of like have all these experiences. Because I don't know, growing up, I used to be like, man, I wonder if I'll ever like be like that guy, or be like, you know, whatever, my brother, or my older brother, or my dad. And it's interesting when those things come to fruition. So backing up to your whole, like, your journey, you started with modeling. So you were modeling for like, what was this, like college time, like after high school? Like what was the platform? What was that journey like?
Yeah, so I like modeled for, this is in, I think, some in high school, and then most of it was like after I dropped out of college.
Okay. So you went to college for a little while.
Yeah, so I went for a year to a college called Geneva.
Yeah, I know where Geneva is.
Yeah, it's not too far from here.
Uh-huh.
But I went for business entrepreneurship, and then, after spending all my capital on 1 year of school, I was like, wow, this is a crazy decision to go to school, and now I'm like I'm at square negative one.
Yeah, dude.
Because now I have all these business ideas, and in reality I could have just got a mentor.
Yes.
So I dropped out of school, and I had gone back once for 1 semester for graphic design or marketing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, eventually I'd like to go and get my degree in history or something, or philosophy. But I was like, I don't really need a degree to make money.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, hey man, you've been saying a lot of stuff today that I'm like, retweet that, man. But I was also somebody that I thought that there was a very linear path to success, and I thought that involved having a degree. And I think for some people it does. If you have a really pointed vision of what you want to do, you want to be a doctor. Well, of course you have to go to college, right? But I had a kind of, I don't know if it was because I realized how much debt I was going into, or just because I had this beautiful little thing sidetrack me. But I also realized at some point, I believe I'm enough of a hustler. I think people say, oh man, you're so artistic or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think it's just, I'm really consistent. I have more of a hustler entrepreneurial mindset. And I'm at this point now where I know I don't have a degree. I'm 10 years out from when I would have had a degree, and I'm not too worried about it. Cause I'm I think if you market yourself well, if you promote yourself well, you're honest, you're genuine, you can kind of sell anything, right? Yeah. So, so you left school. At what point, were at that point were you kind of hey, I'm gonna pursue this acting thing, modeling, for money, or were you kind of working odd jobs? How were you navigating things?
When I left college, it was definitely a sobering experience, because you're going from college is just pseudo life, especially if you you live on
it's my
campus.
Biggest stressor is that I have an exam tomorrow.
Everyone's telling you where to be, when to be. Your friends live next door to you. When are you ever going to be in another scenario like that, unless you're rich and live in some suburb community? Which is sick. That would be an awesome end to
maybe.
But I was dang, now my friends, I'm free all the time, but my friends aren't. So I had to be very intentional about my relationships, and I started exploring different jobs. I was a barista at Starbucks, and I've hung gutters. I've coached gymnastics. I coached Ninja Warrior off and on for 10 years. And so I was exploring my options, but at the same time I was doing freelance art, and I was selling people art. And so I never doubted for a second that I could make my curiosities into an income.
And freelance art, was this when you were saying you did jewelry and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. You were just kind of doing...
Yeah. So my first business was the Jacob of all trades.
The Jacob of all trades. I like that.
I started on the Renaissance man path early, because I was I don't want people to tell me I can only do one form of art or one form of creativity. And so, so I bought a camera, and then I came up with this idea. This was kind of the turning point for everything. I came up with an idea for a video called A Love Letter to Coffee. And so, and working at Starbucks, I really did fall in love with coffee.
Yeah.
I'm a caffeine addict, but on top of that, coffee's so interesting, the history of it, and
it is
where it was discovered in different places, and how it's really fueled so many people's success. When you think of coffee, you think of every type of person and every walk of life. And I wouldn't say everyone loves coffee, because that just wouldn't be true, but
a lot.
Yeah. And so I was you know what, we should appreciate coffee. And so I wrote a love letter to coffee, and I made a French press out of a flower vase in copper sheeting I had sitting around from a gutter job. Yeah. And my friend, Sean Hungerford, Blue Hour Cinema, he shot the video and I directed it. And I posted it online and I posted a preview of it on Instagram. And this guy that owns a company called Death Grip, I think it's grooming now, but it was mustache wax.
Okay.
Reached out to me and was like, hey, you should make videos for my company. And so that's the first time I really encountered imposter syndrome, because I was like, you know what? I didn't make the video. Like, I came up with the idea for it, but my friend shot it.
I see.
And so I ghosted him for 3 months. And I was still learning how to use my camera, taking better photos. And I had my friend kind of like teach me the basics of video. And during that time, I made a video. I turned a baseball mitt into a wallet, and like the inside sleeves were like actual baseballs that I like stitched together into pockets.
Yeah.
And I posted it, and Levi, the owner of Death Grip, reached out again. And so I was like, you know, this isn't like, he really wants me to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I guess we might as well just give it a try. And the rest is history. I started making videos for him. Like, they did like 4 ROI on Amazon. So if you don't know what that is, like, I basically quadrupled his investment. And so he started like flying me around the country to make mini docs about people. And so I was meeting like these guys with crazy mustaches and telling their stories. And I was obsessed with Peaky Blinders. And this was around the same time that I started making transition videos.
And this was, what year was this? Like
2019, 2020.
So pre-COVID?
Yeah.
Okay, so back up for 1 second, because this is interesting. There's a lot of, you're breezing over this like it's nothing, but it's very cool. So at that time, this was under your current Instagram handle, like the Heel Grabber, or was it like, did you have the Jake of all trades? Was that what you were kind of posting your stuff on, or?
It was Heel Grabber, and to explain that, like,
okay. Yeah, I want to know what that is. Yeah.
It goes back to Bible times. So when Jacob and Esau were born, the name Jacob means grabber of the heel.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, Jacob grabbed Esau's heel as they were coming out of the womb. My name also means deceiver.
Wild.
But yeah,
you're like, we're not going to resonate with that one so much.
But my middle name means God with us. It's Emmanuel. So it evens out, you know?
It evens out,
You know, Jacob had a comeback story too, you know, like God chose him as like the future of like the Israelites and stuff like that. But
hey, listen, man, I love a good biblical comeback.
Yeah.
Like the story of Saul to Paul, that pipeline, man.
Insane.
Love it, dude. Insane,
like,
really.
If he can do it, then.
If he can do it, literally anyone, dude.
Yeah.
It's funny because people talk recently, like, I'm guilty of this. There's a lot of rumblings online about like Shia LaBeouf and his kind of like recent crash and fall. And I was actually just talking to my dad about this yesterday. I was like, honestly though, like it's easy for me to be like, yeah, dude, he's really like, he is an idiot. Like he's not representing it well. Like he's making Christians look bad or whatever. But then I'm like, well, what's that really all about? Like I'm just judging him. Like anybody in any point in time, even if they are very broken, should be able to pursue a higher power, right? Like should be able to pursue, it's all about like really like the pursuit of that, right? Of those things. So nobody's like not valid to try to be godly, even though they're falling right on their face. And like we have so many people in the Bible, like Saul and the St. Augustine and other people that, you know, kind of showed that. So that's interesting. So right around that time, you had your first video kind of get some traffic. You started realizing like, oh, maybe I can like make money doing this. Were you just traveling around and working as like an independent contractor, just making videos for this one brand? Or were you like, hey, maybe I could expand this and be like a quote unquote like content creator for all kinds of brands? Like what was your thinking?
So they both kind of happened around a similar time. I started making videos for Death Grip, I think, before my first TikTok went viral. And before I was making transition videos, I was making like little comedy sketches. So like my first series on TikTok was, I think it was called like Literally. And so I was just taking like idioms and making them in real life. Like I would tape a piece of bark to a tree that it wasn't from. And like the joke would be barking up the wrong tree.
Barking, I get it, that's funny, yeah.
Or like my friend and I would be I would like lean into him and I'd be like, just so we're clear, this is off the record, and the camera would pan down to the ground and we'd step off a vinyl record.
Aha!
And
like
I've always
that.
loved comedy.
So you just thought that was like silly. Yeah, right, yeah. I like that.
So none of those were doing that great. And then I had my first video get any traction. It was like 15,000 likes. Was a dance video actually.
No way. Yeah, I messaged him the other day because he posted something on his story of him dancing, and I was like, dude, you're like wicked at dancing. Like, that's so sick. And so yeah, I learned that about you. So right around that time, you were doing, you know, kind of some video work, and your stuff was starting to gain some traction. Were you still doing the barista work too? Or you're kind of just like, all right, we'll see where this goes. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was maintaining. Actually, before I quit to do Death Grip, I had 3 jobs, and I was doing Death Grip's videos.
Whoa.
Because I was like, dang, like I have all this free time, might as well work. And people just kept offering me jobs. A lot of times, people.
My boy's a grinder, dude. Yeah.
When people talk to me, they're like, dude, you've lived like 10 different lives.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, working at the hospital added probably 5 years of life to me as a person.
Oh, yeah.
Because you experience so much interesting stuff.
And sad.
Yeah.
Emotional shit. And
for a time period after I dropped out of school, I thought I wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
So I got into nursing school, and I was a nurse's aide. And then I was like, nah, this isn't for me. Like, I love this. I love people. I love doing this kind of stuff. But like on my second day, I scrubbed and bagged a dead body. Ooh. So like it was a very sobering experience, and definitely made me have more empathy for people.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was making videos on TikTok, like there were definitely people who supported me. I'll say that, like a lot of people. There are also people who are like, you're so cringy. Like, why do you make TikToks?
Really?
And that all changes.
You mean kids, like people from your hometown type shit?
Or yeah, like, people I worked with. Like,
see, that's the weirdest thing. I remember growing up like in a smaller area or whatever, and like I thought it was cool when I was always extremely entrepreneurial, and I don't know if you consider yourself one, but I hearing your story, I would consider you extremely entrepreneurial as well. And a part of me was like, oh man, like I just want to like make stuff. So I started a clothing brand, and it was like, I found the company that could screen print t-shirts, and it was rough, and it wasn't, and looking back, it was very cringy, but I was trying to do this thing, and I remember kids calling me like gay and stuff, and I'd be like, I'm not, like, first of all, like whatever, I'm not, but okay, like even if I was, whatever. But second, like, that sucks. Like I wanted to just like, nobody was like supportive of it, because it was just, I guess, wasn't your standard, right? Like people were just kind of like, they're afraid to, I think people are afraid to put themselves out there.
For
right?
sure.
You know?
And deep down, like, and I know this can come off as prideful, but like deep down they're just jealous.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you can't appreciate someone else doing something or like putting their best effort in, and you know, we're all cringy at first. Like I also had a t-shirt phase and look back and think like, yeah, I can see how this didn't take off, you know, like I'm not surprised.
I'm not denying it. Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, it's like, the older I get, the more I want to create opportunities for younger creators to like take risks and try things.
In between, kind of like that jumping off phase a lot of entrepreneurs have, which is like, when do I like go all in on my kind of like side thing or passion and kind of leave behind like the stable job or whatever?
Yeah.
Like at what point, by the way too, when he says like he was doing transition videos, he has a lot of videos on his Instagram and stuff where it's like, it'll be like reading a book, and he'll just like, it will be a really smooth transition to like taking you to that time period, which I thought is very interesting as somebody who likes film. Like it's a great short film.
Thanks.
So that was kind of the first stuff to go viral, right? And then when did you kind of think like, hey, I'm gonna turn this into like a business or start working with other companies to like create content for them?
Yeah. It was probably, I mean, I was working with Death Grip at the end of 2019. Mm-hmm. And then I think I started working with more companies. Like, I would have companies reaching out and send me products, like free products and stuff.
To review and stuff.
Yeah, and so I did that for a little bit. And then it's actually kind of a funny story. I I mentioned that wallet I made. We were out on a boat. It was me and some family, and the boat just starts sinking that we're on, and it ends up like flipping over and like capsizing. And
Like in Lake Erie?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I had just quit my 3 jobs and like was going to do film full time, and my camera was in the boat. And I'm holding my nephew, and like this fishing boat comes by just in time for us to like hand the kids off before the boat flips over.
Oh my gosh, dude. Was
And-
it like a pontoon boat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was also able to throw my camera into this guy's boat. Because I was like, I'm screwed. Like, I don't have insurance on this camera.
Yes.
Like, I just quit all my jobs. I don't have any money.
Yep.
Like, so that was a serendipitous moment. Because you're just like, oh my gosh, that worked out like in an insane way.
Like, maybe I was supposed to be doing this
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, okay.
So then, I'm trying to think of who the other person I worked with. Like, I worked with some of the people I was doing mini documentaries for Death Grip for, doing side projects and stuff. But most of my stuff was with Death Grip for a long time. I met, I don't know if you know any of these people, but like Aurorius Metalworks.
Okay.
He's the guy that makes like big masks that are like mechanical, and like when he opens his mouth, they like do different things.
Okay, yeah.
I worked with him. I worked with Rusty Van Ranch.
I think I've heard of that.
The tug ski.
Maybe. I feel like I've heard of that.
He took a kid's tugboat sandbox and retrofitted onto a jet ski.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's 100%. I've seen that. Yeah.
So I'm good friends with Rusty, and then there's a guy named Brendan Kelly. He goes by the USA Sane, and
I don't know him.
he was America's best natural mustache, I think, last year.
Oh, nice, dude.
That's something that we got to talk about.
Yeah, so I know like in your Instagram bio it says I wanted to hit on a few other things. So I wanted to hit on, first of all, you do a lot of content creation now. You do like what I would consider short films, you do acting, you know, you want to get more into filmmaking and some directing even. What are some of your favorite movies? Like, cause I'm a huge movie guy. So I kind of floated this idea to you last night. I know it's a lot of pressure, but if you could only watch 3 movies for the rest of your life, what do you think those 3 movies would be?
So like first, I'll say for a long time I've known Catch Me If You Can.
Dude, amazing!
Yeah.
It's a fire movie. Yeah.
Great movie. And the show actually that's also based off of Frank Abagnale, White Collar. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen the show, no way.
Honestly, the only TV show I've ever watched and finished and thought, I'm happy with that ending.
Wow.
Like, you really wrapped up everything perfectly. But I've been obsessed with con artists for a long time.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I learned what rhetoric is and realized that, like, you could pick up techniques from con artists and use them for good.
Yeah.
Like, because they're like they have some of the best rhetoric. So that was why I was obsessed with that movie.
You mean like they could basically, in like Wolf of Wall Street, how like there's that little scene where he's like, I could sell you this pen. And, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just his approach.
Yeah.
Right? He was, you know?
And there's an interview with Frank Abagnale Jr. and the guy's like, so give me an example, like, who would you con in this restaurant? And he looks around and he's like, see that lady over there? Like, her husband and the waiter haven't given her like any attention the whole time she's been here, and like she's so desperate for attention, I could just con her.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And then he like pans over and he's like, see that guy over there? He's got a super nice watch on, real cocky. Like, that's why I could con him, because he thinks no one could ever con him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know, like, human behavior is so interesting, and part of being someone who's, you know, and people hate this term, and like sometimes I get cringed out by it, but like being an influencer or a thought leader can really make a difference. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people out there doing negative stuff, like why not use the same techniques to do positive stuff?
Okay. And so that makes sense. Now, it's also interesting to me too, like with your background and like the type of kind of guy you are, it's almost like, do you get, when people are, we've talked about this a little bit, but like when people are seeing your videos and you're like portraying like a criminal or something like that, like what do you say to like that conflict of like, you're such a nice dude, you're not promoting these things, but there is like some lore to like the mind of a criminal, right? Like it's something enticing to us. Like, how do you kind of approach that when people are like, but that's not you, Jacob, like you're so nice, you know?
Yeah. And I think overarchingly, it kind of goes back to the idea of what you're talking about, like memento mori. Like a lot of people would see a human skull and think that's gross, and to me, I'm just like, that's sick. Like that's inside of us. Like,
whoa.
And if you really think about it, people compliment it without like thinking about it too much. They're like, oh, your bone structure is amazing. Like, what a weird thing to say.
So strange,
Like, but it makes sense because like we're made of flesh and bone.
Yep.
To me, it's like just portraying a character. But I think people have develop this parasocial relationship. And you see this a lot in celebrities. And like, as an influencer, you're kind of like a micro celebrity in a sense. So people have this image about you. And had this experience so many times in my life where I've met someone, they're like, I really thought you were going to be a douchebag, but you're actually like so nice and like a good person. And I'm like, I could see how you would see that from like me portraying these characters. And specifically, I was telling you about like, I posted a video that was originally a Sherlock Holmes video and just put the title H.H. Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
And I said specifically in the caption too, like, I'm not glorifying H.H. Holmes, like I'm just portraying him. And some people got really mad in the comments and were like, you are glorifying him. But when you really when you look back at the history, like a lot of people like Jeffrey Dahmer, like the reason he could kill these girls is because, and these people in general, is because he was charming in a sense.
Or like, what's his face, Ted Bundy.
Exactly. So like, I don't think you take away from the bad things that they've done by saying they're attractive. Yeah. But the problem with humans is like, they've done studies, you typically think someone's more trustworthy if they're physically attractive.
So you're almost like just bringing to light that juxtaposition of thought, which is kind of interesting. I mean, that's what art's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like kind of provocative and like make you think, right?
For sure.
That's interesting.
And like we kind of talked about that. Sometimes maybe like our technique may not be the best for like sharing the truth. Yeah. But I think there's something to be said about someone who's willing to be honest about their perspective and take criticism from it. Because I think, of course, like, have you watched Peaky Blinders?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like, I just watched the new movie. We won't give any spoilers.
Yeah,
today,
I haven't actually seen it yet.
You haven't? Okay, holy shit, dude. Okay, all right. So keep going.
But Tommy Shelby is just like a fantastic example. Like, you love him. But he's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
like
he does a lot of bad things. Yeah. He kills a lot of people and
gets everyone he loves killed. Like, So in a sense, you scroll on social media and you see all these edits that are like to funk music of like Tommy Shelby being a badass, and you're like, yeah, but he's still a shit person. Like, the character is in like Walter White in Breaking Bad, like badass character. Such a good villain, but still a villain. Like, and I think that's where the separating the act from the actor comes in. Is that some people will send death threats to villains in movies, and you're like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Like, you got to be able to separate movies from reality.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, there's a whole deeper conversation that we could have that's probably would take 4 hours, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm like extremely visual person, but like I can watch certain things, and for a long time, I would question what things I should consume and what things I shouldn't, just because I am so visual. And sometimes it would like haunt me, like truly haunt me. And I think there's like a greater psychological like effect on younger generations. When it comes to things like what we're obviously exposed to at a pretty young age. But I think like kind of along that same vein, one of my favorite movies that came out recently is they redid the book and movie All Quiet on the Western Front. And have you seen that?
I haven't yet.
Dude, incredible. And I mean, without giving anything away, like the beauty of this story to me is it follows this young German soldier in World War I, so not to be confused with the Nazis, but it really shows, like, imagine in 1915 or whatever it was, like, you might not have ever seen real violence. Like, I mean, to us, if we're 18 years old in 2026, like, you've probably seen messed up videos online. You've probably seen gore. At the very least, you've seen violence in video games and movies. I thought what was so crazy about that was, like, it showed so well how they were convinced at a young age, like, join the cause, come fight for your country. And they're like, hooray, like, we're gonna go fight. And then it's like they get there and their friend gets blown up. And they're like, oh my God, they get completely shell-shocked. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, other than, like, I think it is important to show the good and the bad in things. Like, because it's just real. It's a reality of life, you know? Like, not everything's sunshine and roses, you know?
And I have that debate. I'm at times drawn to writing in a way that, like, the ending's not happy. Mm-hmm. Because that's just part of life, you know? Like, it's disgusting to think about, but there's, like, people out there doing things that would make you gag. Like,
yeah.
And it's unfortunate because a lot of people, like, are hooked on drugs and have, like, had not had enough help to, like, get mentally sound. Mm-hmm. But if you shelter someone from that their whole life, like, they'll have this delusion about the world that it's all good.
Yep.
And, like,
that can be even more dangerous.
Yeah. Like, people talk about, I never know how to say his last name, Nietzsche.
Oh, yeah, Nietzsche, yeah.
And, like, people are like, oh, he's a nihilist. But there's two ways you can look at nihilism. Like we were just talking about earlier. It's like, oh, yeah, like, nothing matters. Or, like, oh, nothing matters. That's great.
Yeah. It can be, like, incredibly freeing, or it can be, like, a prison of depression.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in recovery, we talked about this good bit. Like, the beauty of step one of any 12-step program is that you're powerless, right? You admit that you're powerless over whatever the affliction is in your life. And some people are like, oh man, I'm powerless. Like, that means I have no... I'm like, dude, hell yeah, I'm powerless. Like, that tree could fall on my car and it'd be like, well, oh well.
Yeah.
I love living that way, dude. Like, not a lot gets me super worked up, you know? And honestly, having that kind of true acceptance of being powerless, it's allowed me to witness people in recovery handle some of the most really difficult situations in their life with, like, a level of grace that I can't even fathom. Because they're like, you know what? You know, I trust God, and things happen, and I'm just lucky that we had this person in our lives for this amount of years. And I'm like, dude, oh my gosh, like, that would ruin some people, right? Mm-hmm. So, anyways, that's movie number one. We went on a crazy tangent. Catch me if you can, but yeah, Jacob was saying that I'm a light-handed tattoo artist, which I have heard, and I love that, because it's like, I don't like, people don't realize this, but when you're tattooing somebody and they're, like, in excruciating pain, I mean, unless you're, like, a psychopath, it's so hard to do that as a tattooer, because you're like, oh, just hold still, and it's like, oh, and they're like, ah, and I'm like, oh, I'm fucking up, I'm sweating now, like, this is so bad. It's almost like you feel it, dude. It's rough. But all right, so we were talking about top 3 movies that you know, if you had to watch 3 movies only those 3 for the rest of your life, what would it be? Number 1 is Catch Me If You Can. Phenomenal movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Leonardo DiCaprio, young Leo. It's a true story. I'm a sucker for true stories. I told you I launched into tirades about how I'm into, like, you know, history and shit, so that makes sense. What are the other 2 that you can think of, if you can narrow them down?
Yeah, The Mask.
The Mask, okay.
Yeah, great
That's
film.
an interesting one. Is that also with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Jim Carrey.
No, oh, what am I thinking? Yeah, I was thinking of a different movie. The Mask, yeah. The Green Mask with Jim Carrey, yes, for sure. I like that, okay. What do you like about that?
It's just like, it's really classic Jim Carrey in the sense that, like,
facial expressions.
Yeah, and the special effects at that time were just great. Like, you think of, like, the scene where he sees Cameron Diaz and, like, turns into a wolf and his tongue, like, rolls out of his mouth and he's like, awooga.
And it was
Also,
all
I mean,
practical effects too, right?
Yeah, a lot of it was.
Most of it, yeah.
And like, also, I mean, how can you be a kid that age and see Cameron Diaz in that and not be like,
she's so
I like
beautiful.
women, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah. 100%, dude. Yeah.
So that, and like the colors are just so vivid and amazing in that movie. Like I've always been obsessed with greens and yellows, like very earthy, like 70s type tones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and yeah, it was funny. I think there was another Leonardo DiCaprio movie. I don't know why I was thinking of this, but it was like a really early Leo movie where it's something about like there was a king or something in France, and he had like a brother that was coming into the kind of threatening his throne, so he imprisoned him in like some sort of a mask device.
Oh, the man in the iron mask?
Yeah, the man in the iron mask. That's what I was thinking of. Okay, so I wasn't completely crazy. That's what I was, okay. I think I was just in the Leonardo DiCaprio train of thought.
I was wondering if that's what you were thinking of.
I think what I love about Jim Carrey is like throughout my life growing up, my mom's always been like, you can just do these crazy things with your face and contort your face into these really wild, like goofy, I like that, it was fun. You know? And I'm a very expressive, Italian guy as I'm waving my hands. But so I can appreciate that movie, okay, and I think that would add some lightheartedness if you had to watch that on a loop or whatever,
Let's take a quick aside on the like making faces thing.
Yes,
that's low key looks maxing.
Looks maxing. Yes, it is. It's been around, bro.
Yeah. Like Jim Carrey, have you seen his facial structure? It's like
insane.
A Greek god.
It is. Well, until that's a whole side
rabbit hole. As we all know.
Yeah, we all know. But all right, so movie number 3 after The Mask, what would that be?
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
The animated one.
The animated one. I appreciate it. I gotta say, don't hate me, bro. I can't get into animated stuff. I don't know why. Ever since I was a kid, like I used to love waking up and watching cartoons, and for some reason, dude, I just like, I can't, it doesn't like hold my attention like live action films, but I appreciate the art so much that I want to like it. Maybe I need to give that a try. I don't think I've even ever seen that one, dude. What's like the premise of that? Is it like the rest of the, I don't honestly watch a whole lot of like the Marvel or DC. I'll watch the live action ones, but I've never seen I don't know all of the plot lines and stuff.
Yeah, so I grew up like having access to some comic books because my dad used to read comic books.
Yep.
And like I've had friends, I have one of I think a full set of the like copies of the original Amazing Spider-Man, the first 10.
Wow.
But I've always been obsessed with Spider-Man. Always wanted to be Spider-Man. I've owned several Spider-Man costumes, made Spider-Man videos. Like that's why I learned how to backflip.
Yeah.
And but the movie is just extraordinary. Like I grew up on Spectacular Spider-Man, Batman Beyond, like the really slim superheroes that were like super agile, and the animation style to me is just so fascinating. And there's nothing better for me than watching a movie and being like, that felt like I was reading a comic book.
Oh, that's cool.
And Into the Spider-Verse, Sony actually, I believe, had like 3 times the amount of animators that any film had previously,
nice.
Or like typically. And it just shows, like, it's so insane. Like, you just feel so immersed. But I was at a time in my life where I didn't have internet at home. Yeah. So I bought that and downloaded it on my laptop, and I've probably seen it over 50 times.
When did that come out?
I want to say that was around 2020.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess that's the other thing too. Like, I never really thought of it in that light. I would appreciate it more if I did, because my mom, she had all these older brothers, like 4 older brothers, and they had these crazy comic book collections from like the 60s, dude. Yeah. Like the OG ones, and they are incredible. Like, I mean, the art style is amazing. That's why I've always been like, I don't watch a lot of it myself, but I super appreciate it. Yeah. Like, So do you think a piece of that is also just like the nostalgia of your childhood? Like you just love, you've always loved that.
And I've always been interested in like parkour and like body movement stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I see that from your videos. Okay.
Yeah. And like, more recently in my life, like physique, like you look, every kid sees a superhero and is like, dude, I want to be jacked.
That guy, yeah.
And then when you're an adult, you're like, oh, I can. Like,
Yeah, right?
I can eat lots of protein and just go to the gym a couple times a week.
Lift weights
and, like,
a lot, yeah.
I can look insane.
Yeah.
But also the storyline of Spider-Man is just like, he experiences tremendous loss.
Yeah.
Like, and then in the multiverse, you get to see like all these Spider-Mans come together and they're like, I lost my brother, like I lost my best friend, I lost my uncle. And obviously the underlying story is like, with great power comes great responsibility. So like, he didn't choose to be Spider-Man, but he had to step up and be Spider-Man nonetheless, because he was the super and he had to like do something with those powers. And so for me, it resonates with my life philosophy of like, I wrote my mission statement in high school sophomore year to inspire and empower everyone to find and achieve their purpose. And so for me, it was just always a reminder of like, you've been gifted with a lot of things, and like you've been gifted with like the ability to know that hard work pays off. So give that gift to other people.
Yeah.
And like be willing to show people the ropes and give back, because I'm so grateful for the people in my life who have like provided opportunities for me, or like I've had people give me like light gear and microphones and stuff. And that really does make a difference. So like I've tried to give that same treatment to younger creators, like giving my old cameras to people. Like
Nice.
I've offered to buy people laptops. And that's an interesting thing too, is like investing in new creators. I think a lot of times you have to be wise, because sometimes you can make it too easy for them and then they just give up. And you're like, damn, I just bought you this really expensive thing and now you're never gonna use it. Like,
dude, yeah. See, it's a good question to ask you too, and it's something that I know that I have struggled with in the past. Like tattooing is interesting. There's a lot of like gatekeeping in traditional, like not just traditional style, but like traditionally in tattooing, there's been a lot of gatekeeping. Like you got to go through these apprenticeships and stuff. And I personally had like an apprenticeship, quasi apprenticeship, but I was also been like more of a believer. Like I don't really care how you got there. Like if I can trust you to do good work, you're a good person, you're doing good art and you're trying, I would rather invest in like working with somebody in my shop who's like newer and they're like just ready to be a sponge and kind of soak stuff up, rather than like have this super rigid, like, you're gonna have to be like subservient to me for like 2 years or whatever. Like I don't like that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's cool though, because there have been times where I'm like, it can feel sometimes maybe threatening, like when a new person's like exploding onto the scene. But I love what you said earlier off camera. You were like, yeah, dude, like I'll help people out because like I know I'm gonna, at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be a really hard worker. So like, I'm only in competition with myself, right?
for sure.
And I think that's something that I need to be reminded of sometimes when it comes to like helping out other tattoo artists or giving them pointers or whatever. Like, there's enough love to go around, you know, right?
And that's like, especially in like the photo video world, like there's a lot of catty people who just like, you hear it all the time. Oh, that person copied me. Well, you copied someone else. Like, to think that there are as many novel ideas as you actually think there are, like, is kind of crazy.
It's crazy. Same thing in tattooing. I'm like, bro, unless very rarely do you come up with a design that's like truly original. Like I'd say maybe like 1% ever. Like somebody's always done, you know what I mean? It's like,
and then someone's gonna recreate that.
Yeah, dude. And one of my mentors that I did a kind of like a mentorship course from, he was big on, in his podcast, the one podcast that I listened to him on, like he was like, dude, impressions or impersonation or not impersonation, what is it, this term, like whatever is the best form of flattery?
The highest form of flattery.
The highest form of flattery, right? And like there is some truth to that, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like they're aspiring to be like you and what you do, right?
And that's what I try to like bring people's attention to. Like, I mean, I'm sure even in the short time you followed me, you may have seen me say stuff like, your camera does take really good photos, like some photographers get really mad about that, but at the end of the day, like, you got to have some gratitude for the tools that get you to where you are. Because sometimes I sit down and think, I'm like, if I had to only record for 3 minutes on a reel of film and then physically cut it up and tape it together, like, who knows if I would have actually been a videographer back in the day. So like, I got to have a lot of respect for the people that literally dedicated their whole lives to creating the digital camera and like understanding how photons work and how light processes into like code. So for me, and if you're interested in being creative, I would highly suggest there's a podcast by Andrew Huberman, the Huberman Lab. And he has Rick Rubin on. And Rick Rubin, he wrote The Creative Space, is it?
I don't know what the book is, but I know about who Rick Rubin is. Like, he was basically just like, I don't know anything, but I have a good eye for stuff. And he brought on so many of the musical artists like in history, right?
Yeah. And they have a really good conversation. And then there's one other episode about creativity. I'd suggest both of them, but he really breaks it down as, you know, creativity is a neurological process. Inside of our brains, like, we have these, I think it's called the nigral striatus pathway. And when we think about doing action, our bodies kick into like dopamine motivation. So that connects to, like, you know, survival of the fittest back in the day. Like, if you think about going to chase an animal to get food, like, you're gonna have a biological reward in return.
Right.
And creativity can be broken down to two processes: convergent and divergent thinking. So convergent thinking is like, if I were to give an example, like skull, we say, what are some things that relate to a skull? Skull dead, skull arch, skull carve. And then we say, okay, out of all these potential options, what's something that's, one, actually viable and useful, and two, is something that's novel. So if you say like skull carve, I could carve things into skulls. Like, I'm sure there's a way you could tattoo a skull.
Yeah.
Like, and then it opens up a world of opportunity. You can tattoo on bone. You could tattoo on leather. You could tattoo on, like, just so many different things.
Right.
Like, people even tattoo on mirrors.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's awesome.
So for me, creativity really is just as simple as taking two things that already exist and just slapping them together. And that's why I would argue very sternly that everyone is creative, and everyone has potential to be creative, but it's just like going to the gym and getting jacked. If you go to the gym a lot, you're gonna notice you can pick up heavier weights. If you start thinking creatively more, your creative muscles grow, and like whatever you believe in, like God or the universe, gives you ideas in return. Like, sometimes I have too many ideas. And I think that's where, like, the Rick Rubin argument comes in. Like, you can be a creative director just because you have so many good ideas. And there's a world of opportunity there for people. Like, oh, I can do whatever I want. But that's, like, we talked about this earlier, that's where things get hard, because when you have too many options, it's like paralysis by overanalysis. If I have too many options, I'll never pick one. And I can relate to that, you know. And I'm sure you can too as a creator. It's like, when you sit down and look at the blank piece of paper, it's one of the most terrifying things ever, because you're like, I could make mistakes. I could not have what I envision my head to be the end. So if you get too caught up on the end product, and this stuff sounds cliche. I've heard it a million times. Like, people say, oh, love the process. And it really is that simple, but simple isn't the same thing as easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a you said a lot of like very clippable things right there, right? That were super relevant. But one of the things that resonates with me is like in a lot of the programs of recovery, it's like, this is a simple program. That doesn't mean it's easy. It means it's simple in that it's straightforward, but it's gonna take consistency to achieve it. Because it's not easy, it's very hard to do the same thing in repetition and not get completely sidetracked. You know what I mean? But I really just feel like we share a lot of the same thoughts on that. And so I super appreciate that. I was kind of gonna segue that into like, with having so many different things going on, like you're making really cool content, you have the company where you're helping others make really cool content, you're pursuing some acting, you're doing acting. Like, is there something that's kind of feeling a little bit more of a calling for you right now? Like, of the Renaissance man things that you do? Like, give me a little bit of insight into that.
Yeah, I would say currently that's like an unanswered question, and like referring back to that tattoo I have on my arm, my first one, like that will be a struggle for me till I die. I'm almost sure of it, because like my bucket list is probably like, the variety is absolutely insane. Like someday I will be in the circus. Like I'm not sure in what capacity, like if I'm going to start my own circus or just like try out for some big circus. But like to me, I see it as a, like, when is this going to happen? Not like, is this going to happen?
Yeah.
So for me right now, the options are, like you mentioned, going full-time into acting. I've done 2 really high quality short films and some that had, like, were so good that had a smaller budget. And the one is, if anyone's interested in watching it, it's Alexander the Brain. It's on YouTube. It's an 1880s bare knuckle boxing film. Did like 6 months of fight training for that. Like lots of blood, sweat, and tears literally went into that.
Yeah.
And then we did one recently that was House of Eden, and it's like a 70s cult frat film.
Ooh.
So I get typecast as the villain a lot because like I play a good villain. So at this point in my career, I'm trying to do more like lighthearted roles and maybe like a love story, something like that.
Yeah.
And then onto script writing or filmmaking. I'm writing a feature-length film called Vengeance Afoot, and it's a Western. A lot of people have likened the plot of it to The Count of Monte Cristo.
Ooh. Yeah, love that.
And I've already started writing as well a futuristic Japanese TV show. It's like kind of like cyberpunk in a sense, lots of body modding, like real life superpowers that could actually be a thing. And so that's a matter of just like actually sitting down and getting myself to write every day.
Yeah.
And then there's some local stuff. I think at this point in my career, I'm more than willing to admit like my ego has been inflated by TikTok.
Yeah.
Like you reach millions of people and you're like, why am I not famous as an actor? And even you have comments all the time that say like, oh, what movie is this from? Or like, how are you not famous actor at this point? And honestly, the answer is because I haven't put the time in to like put my reel out and to like audition for more roles. And so I'm hyper aware of a lot of the things that are not succeeding in my life right now are just for a lack of effort.
Yeah.
And maybe like perfectionism and stuff. But I've also considered doing YouTube full time, which I've already started filming a bunch of videos, just haven't put them out yet.
Right.
But also this is kind of like, the answer is kind of all of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think it's good because it's honest, it's genuine. Like we talked about this several times today, like it is really hard. That's one of the biggest challenges as somebody who's also like creative, if you will. Like it's just like there are so many things we can do, and like whatever we put our most effort into is probably what we're gonna excel at that time, and that goalpost might shift, and that's okay, you know. So that's cool. So you got a lot of projects. Yeah. You're juggling a lot of plates. That's cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about, in your Instagram bio, it says Guinness Book of World Record holder. Tell me about that. What's that about?
Yeah, so I'm part of a group record that is the longest mustache chain.
That's
so
awesome.
We connected, I think like 18 or more or less mustaches, and it's over 20 feet of connected mustaches.
Let's go.
So at the time, my mustache was like over a foot in length from end to end. And some of these guys are like crazy. Like to name drop real quick, like Bob and Elliot, his mustache, and Hunter Kelly are some of the most like mind-blowing mustaches in the world. Like there's this thing called terminal length, and all of our hair has a terminal length. So like your hair, your eyebrows will grow to a certain length and then fall out. And some people, you see like some old guys, their eyebrows are huge and bushy, or their ear hair. Sometimes your terminal length changes. But Hunter and Bob, like, we may not even know if they have a terminal length.
Yeah.
And there's a guy in 2021, I was America's second best English mustache.
Okay.
And the guy that beat me has the world record. It's over 30 inches, which is insane, right? Like, imagine living with that. Like,
yeah.
I was definitely part of what they would call, and some people might find this funny, but it's so very real, like the mustache renaissance. When I started with Death Grip, there were like not a lot of mustaches, like handlebar mustaches. And then after my videos went viral and like we made a lot of Death Grip videos and stuff, like if you look around, mustaches are like so much more common now.
Yes.
And like, I'm not trying to be prideful, but like I did a lot.
You're like, yeah, I did.
Like,
I put that shit on, bro. Yeah.
Like I can, and even the people I've just met in person that I've probably converted like thousands and thousands of mustaches.
That's sick, dude.
Which has been a cool experience, because I will say if you're a man that's struggling with confidence and maybe even you have social anxiety, like, grow a mustache. When you have a handlebar mustache, you cannot go anywhere in public without someone saying something to you.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure. Yeah, that's like a great way to kind of force yourself out of your bubble, right?
And I have tons of videos of guys saying this. Like, they'll all say the same thing. Like, I've had guys say, I got raises at my job. I got promoted. Like, I got a better job. And that's why I try to bring people's attention to, like, the halo effect. Because, like, yes, it can be cringy, like the looks maxing thing, like clavicular. He takes it too far. Like, I don't think you should smash your bones necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, do whatever you want. It's your life. But at the end of the day, like, looks maxing will benefit your life.
Yeah. Caring about, like, how you present yourself or whatever. I guess that's the perception that I have of it. Like, that's, like, there's nothing, there's a lot of, some people could perceive it as prideful, but I think also it's like, you're supposed to, like, your body's a temple, right? You're supposed to take care of it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And,
so that makes sense.
To a certain extent, it's like people who get too worried about other people worrying about their own self-image are kind of also, like, thinking too much.
Yeah.
Because you're like, yeah, you have this sense of, like, humility, but it's like this pseudo humility because you're, like, trying so hard to be humble that you are actually prideful. Like, it's like people that say, and this might be controversial, but, like, it's like people that say, oh, God did this. And you're like, well, God gave you the tools and you used them to do it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely, dude.
And I think there can be some fallacy built into being like, God did this, God did this, God did this. Because then people turn around and say, why did God let this happen? And you're like, well, he gave people free will. So, like, in a sense, you can do pretty much whatever you want. So, like, you make that choice.
Yeah.
And, like, and people get, like, real weird when you start talking about God and being like, because I truly believe you're the master of your own destiny. Like, yes, God is all powerful, and so at any point he could, like, strike you down dead. But he gave you free will, so. And I also, like, people push back on me about this, but, like, I also view humans very simply in the sense that we're habitual creatures. And so are animals, and we're animals. So in a sense, our consciousness has to discipline our body like it's an animal.
Yeah.
Like, for a 3-month period, this was like back in my early 20s, I would wake up and look at myself in the mirror and say, you are my slave and you do what I tell you to do. And that's it. That's the end.
Yeah.
And because I ran into too many scenarios where, like, I was letting my temptations rule me. And I was like, I sat down and I opened a notebook and I wrote down the question, why do I not do the things that I want to do? And I stared at it until an answer came to my mind, and the answer was money. And I was like, that's interesting because I feel like I'm very detached from money. But being detached from money can also be a form of worshiping money, in my perspective.
Yeah.
Because you're so worried about being like, I don't care about money.
You're almost ignorant to it.
Yeah. So, like, but God says to be a good steward of things. So, like, you can all, like, if you've heard of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that concept is so real. Like, some people think poor, some people think rich. And that's not good or bad, or like it just is what it is, you know? Like if you want to make money, all you like really what it comes down to is how can I give back to people in some way and get some sort of currency in return.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to me, I think I get a lot of pushback for this idea too, but like people say, oh, change takes time. But change can happen in an instant. Like and it's about like your environment and stuff. Like if I walked in here and every other day I walked in here and I said, hey Mark, how is it being stupid, dude? Like you might at a certain point start thinking, am I stupid? Like,
yeah.
So the same thing could be said in return. If I wake up every morning and say, you are going to be rich, you're going to have enough wealth to take care of people, and you're going to do things in your life that you never even imagined. Why not that instead of waking up and saying, I'm a piece of shit, I never finish anything, I'm so horrible? Because a lot of people would say taking the Lord's name in vain would be saying, oh my God, but I would disagree with that. I think one of the first names you hear of God is Yahweh, and Yahweh translates to I am who I am. And so if you really break it down, saying God's name Yahweh, saying I am, and then saying something that's not true of what God created you to be, like your potential, is taking the Lord's name in vain. Because you're saying Yahweh is a loser. So, you know, like you can debate theology and like, yes, there are some parts of the Bible where you can say like, is this narrative? Is this an actual account? Is this poetry? But at the end of the day, the philosophy still stands. And are you familiar with Blaise Pascal?
No.
So he's credited with making one of the first mechanical calculators.
Okay.
And he wrote something called the Pascal's Wager.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. And so his mom had cancer, or mom or dad had cancer, and the Catholic church near him came and took care of the person in his life that had cancer, and so they would teach him the gospel. And his wager was, I have essentially 4 options. Like, either I follow the Bible and God's real and I get into heaven, or I follow the Bible, I live a good life, God's not real, and I still lived a good life. Or I go against the Bible, God's real, I go to hell. Or I go against the Bible, God's not real, and I lived a selfish life. So the better option is, I might as well just live by what the Bible says. But I think the problem is a lot of believers tend to be critical of other believers. You know, it's very tempting because the Bible says, like, make a right judgment. But at the same time, he also says that the Holy Spirit is who changes people, not you. So, like, a lot of people can get caught up in the evangelical perspective of, I'm going to convert you. And I was that person too. But at the end of the day, that's a form of pride, is saying, I can convert you. I can make you into a believer.
Sure.
But what does the Bible say? If you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart, you'll have eternal life. So, like, if you really believe, now we're getting back to the philosophy of creation too, is if you believe, you can do it. And if you believe that what God's saying in the Bible is really true and apply it into your life, you will reap the benefits of what you're sowing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that can all be like simplified into just like a reason to just try to think more positively.
Yeah.
I mean, I think whether anybody is a believer in a higher power or not, it's pretty undeniable that if you're around somebody that's just full of negativity all the time, you're gonna absorb that and you're gonna start becoming more negative. Yeah. So like, yeah, I think that's a principle that I just try to like think of how lucky I am or not lucky, just like blessed, grateful I am for all these different things happening in my life. Try to put a spotlight on those things more than the things that I might not have, or the things that, you know, like, and it's totally a struggle. Like, it's every day I'm just falling on my face and questioning whatever, but that's part of the journey, right?
Sure.
So it's crazy. We've been going in these wild tangents, and it's good. It's really good conversation. I wanted to ask you, are there any like projects that you wanted to highlight? I know you talked about a few things that you're working on now with films and acting, but like what's this next year look like for Jacob Ames?
Yeah. So I'm going to be putting some time into auditioning for roles, that's one thing. As far as like things people can see, I'm gonna start posting what I would call narrative tutorials on YouTube. And there's a couple motivating factors behind that. Like, we've all clicked on a tutorial and been like, dude, why are you telling me your life story? I just want to know how to like Photoshop this thing.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a pull to like create something that's more simple, like a tutorial about something, but also tell a story with it. So like, for example, I love kombucha, and so I have like 50 kombucha bottles that are like health aid. They kind of look like rum bottles. And so I'm gonna take all the labels off of them, and then I'm gonna etch some new labels on them.
So I think we were touching on like how kind of weird it was when you first blew up online, how many like people were trying to connect with you. You were getting thousands of messages, and like maybe a need to just like step back and not have like personal relationships with all these people. And you were kind of like explaining that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's really a topic of like feedback. And I think essentially that's the pathway to growth, is getting good feedback. And I think as a creator of any kind, if you think about like school, your teacher has to critique your art. Like the other art students have to critique your art. So like the more feedback you get from people, the more you start to realize how they perceive you or perceive your creation. And it gives you like a mirror to think about things. All that to be said, I think that philosophy is what I'm really interested in sharing, is like giving other people an opportunity to say, I have this idea and I have the power to bring it into reality. And it's important, because I think a lot of people say like, oh, but like you make cool stuff, but like my ideas are just And I'm like, I mean, that's self-inflicted. You're saying you're gonna lose before you start, and that's the difference between me and you, is like, I never for a second thought I was gonna lose.
Yeah. And I think that's also like, there's something to be said for the fact that like a lot of times people might think like they have a really mundane special interest or something, but like we're in such a crazy time where like there's a niche for everything, dude. And you can find a loyal following or a group of people in the craziest little corners of the world and build something from that.
Yeah.
You know? So nobody's like little special interest should necessarily be like discredited to not try to like at least pursue it, right?
I mean, I would venture to say never have we lived in a time where it's easier to find people that you're similar to.
Definitely.
And I mean, obviously I can't say that for certain because I haven't lived all the time. But I think there's positives and negatives to that. But at the same time, like you're saying, there could be a niche that's like dudes who draw in Sharpie on pairs of white glasses. Or like there's literally dudes out there that make glasses frames out of denim and like epoxy.
Yes.
So who's to say like you couldn't make your own little card game and start selling it online and like make content about it, and like you could have 1 million followers. Like it's also humbling to be like, oh, like millions of people have saw me online, but like I can still go out in public and like people don't recognize me. Like,
For sure.
And I have met people that like knew who I was. Actually, I've gone on dates and like a girl has like pretended to not know who I was, and then we started talking about TikTok and they pull it up and they've liked all my videos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, weird take.
Yeah, weird take. Yeah, literally.
Kind of strange now.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's also like, that's gonna continue to happen as social media continues to evolve. Like we have so many micro influencers and regular influencers, and that's just like part of the game now. I think it's just about being transparent. Like, you know what I mean?
Tell me about Externus, is that how you say it?
Externus, yeah. So Externus is, I use a lot of Latin in my designs, just because like, I don't know, a lot of the stuff that I'm like tattooing is kind of realism, and it's based on paintings that, you know, existed in a time when Latin was more prevalent before it was a dead language. So externus means on, of, or from the outside of the body. So it's like, honestly, it's not like I was this crazy like Latin student. It was just, I was like, man, I'm like trying to think of a name for the shop. And I think I was on like thesaurus.com, and I literally found that, and I was like, that's so perfect. That's so fitting, and it's unique. And I was like, oh, let's run with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what we decided to go with. And I don't know, like a lot of other things, it felt instinctual. And I feel like I'm also one of those people that, like, when I talk about something, I generally I just do it a lot of times, you know what I mean? And sometimes it comes with failures, but it's always a lesson at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
So dude, great conversation today. We're about to wrap up this skull. This is like a woodcut etching skull, the little ones that used to say like figure 1, figure 2. I'm gonna give you guys a look at this after it's done. But in the meantime, dude, thanks for this conversation. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for letting me ramble a little bit, you know? And I'm looking forward to finishing this for you, man.
Heck yeah.
Right on, dude. Cool. All right, see you guys.